Hey, gang, just a brief intro into Music Weeks. Here they are now. I was also considering going down the list of all the people that you see over the Music Weeks to be part of each episode, let you know who's coming or who may have been or whatnot. The list has grown. Too big to really go into here. I don't want to take that much time. Music Weeks, thankfully, has grown into a pretty big deal. So it's grown a lot more than just the one music week it originally was going to start out as into multiple weeks now. Let's go ahead and get into this particular day's Music Weeks episodes, and I'm trying to drop them Monday through Friday each week of Music Weeks.
Welcome to Constitutionalist Politics Podcast, aka CTP. I am your host, Joseph M. Leonard, and that's Lenard. CTP is your no muss, no fuss, just me, you, and occasional guest type podcast. Really appreciate you tuning in. As Graham Norton would say, let's get on with the show!
Welcome, everybody. I have Cy Young with me here today, and the obvious question is, are you named after the baseball player?
No, I'm not. My dad was born in 1900, and Cy Young pitched the first World Series in 1903, won 3 games, and Bill Dineen won 4. I wrote a screenplay about it. It was very interesting. But my dad, no, I don't think his name was Cy Young. It was something Young. But somebody said, no, you should name yourself after him. So he did. He picked up Cy Young. So I inherited that.
Yeah. So, well, that answers the next obvious question.
Yeah.
No relation then.
No.
Yeah. Well, and to my audience, you might ask, well, do I not do any research on my guests? Did I not know that? Well, actually, no, I didn't know that. And yes, obviously, I research whether someone will be a good fit for a topic for the show. But beyond that, I don't like to do a lot of homework. I'd rather just have a spitball session and go with the flow, right? The same obvious questions that would come up to an audience member, hopefully then would come up to me. And you and I, so the audience knows, stumbled across each other through a service called Podcast Guest List, where people find each other for podcasts. Right. And in your bio, it talked about, and I wrote back to you, I'll read it right from the note that I sent you, would love to discuss the need for more upbeat and or positive, uplifting fare all through our entertainment, but especially our TV shows and movies. I just talked to Don Gallade a few months ago about movies, some specifics, but we're going to kind of talk some generalities, I guess, right? Because I agree with you wholeheartedly. There's a whole lot of garbage out there.
Exactly. Well, I saw a great film last night. I thought it was great. I don't see very many films, Joe, but this was called The Blood. What was it called? What was it? About the Oakland A's and how they came back and how they tried a new system.
Moneyball.
Moneyball. Yeah. It was really Brad Pitt was really great in it, and I thought it was the concept. I thought was great was that this guy, this general manager with the Oakland A's, was doing something different. He wasn't doing the 40 years of what the GMs usually do, the scouts usually do, the owners do. He was doing something different. And boy, did it pay off. They won 20 games, a real record in a row. Now, they didn't win the World Series, but they won 20 games. So his new thinking, a new way of thinking, really paid off. But he had to fight like a tiger to get it done.
Yeah, based on a true story and a lot of different not just baseball now, try to at least put a little of that philosophy, especially in this modern day and age of all sports having salary caps.
Right.
So you have to play a degree of Moneyball, as it was called. Yeah, that came out a few years ago. I saw a couple months ago a movie called Argyle. Now, I'm an author. I wrote Terror Strikes Coming Soon to a City Near You, which is a political thriller. But Argyle, one of the premises or sub-premises is that Dallas Bryce Howard plays a author who writes spy novels. And then there are a bunch of twists and turns from there. Did you see that film?
I did not see it, no.
Yeah, that was just out a few months ago. And I really liked it. It's also known as the Cat movie. And if you look up the preview, you'll understand why, because a cat prominently plays through the whole movie. But it's really like comedy, drama, and action. And it's a lot of fun, like we're talking. The need for more upbeat, it's comedic. It's fun. It's over, like the fight scene on the train is so over the top. It's funny, and so we need more stuff like that, in my opinion.
Well, I think we do too, but it's who's producing it and who's directing it. That's the question. I don't know. These guys come and go all the time. When I was trying to get stuff done in Hollywood, I had an agent in New York, Peter Miller, and we would submit stuff to them, and they'd say, well, we need this star. If we don't get this star, we're not going to get it done. Now, I had a movie called, what was it called? Death Load, I think, Death Load. And it was a very powerful action film. And it had one of the producers was a guy who had produced a movie, well, I guess about 30 years ago from now, but then it was about 10 years ago. And he was a very good producer, and he liked it, and he wanted to rewrite. So I did a little rewrite on it, and his people who were working with him said, "Si did a great rewrite on this. Death Load, it's called." And but they couldn't find a star, a guy who can ride a motorcycle and shoot people. So there you go. You need somebody who can ride a motorcycle and shoot people,
Well, Tom Cruise can certainly do that these days, but back then he was still not quite the star he is today.
Oh, and I had another movie. Let me just tell you about this. You know who Donna Mills is?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Well, Donna Mills, I knew her when she was Donna Miller. Yeah, Donna Miller in Chicago. She was 16. I was 24. We were studying dancing at Stone Cameron in Chicago. We went to see a movie. We held hands and kissed. It was wonderful. Anyway, cut to third. I guess 25 years later, I have the screenplay, and it's called Overdue. And it's about a gal who's a reporter who's trapped in the research library on 42nd Street in a snowstorm. It's a really, really strong. It was somebody optioned it, and it was very strong. And they got it to Donna. And I thought, oh yeah, Donna, I know Donna. Well, if you know somebody, they're not going to believe me. Then I don't remember him. Anyway, that's kind of the way that goes. But anyway, so you live and you learn.
Yeah, right. You never know where people are in their immediate life and career to whether they think something will fit or not for them. And but I think there is, in some cases, a reliance on stars too much. I wish, like when we're talking about upbeat films or whatever, films like you're talking about options, them wanting a big star, if they would take their chance on the next upcoming star for your film. We need to give some more people a break. Yeah.
Well, that would be good if they would think of it that way. I don't think they do. I think it's totally personal. They think of it as a personal thing. Is this good for me? And am I going to do that? No. Basically, it's a kind of a very small, narrow concept, but people are very selfish. They just, we face that. They think about themselves first, and then if that's going to work for me, well, think about it.
Yeah, that's a shame. That's a shame. But because everybody had to get their start somewhere, right?
Exactly.
Everybody needs that one big break. And it's a shame. I've seen a bunch of other movies with like some people that we thought would be the next up and coming star. And I can't think of her name, but I'm thinking about the old Sylvester Stallone cliffhanger film. The woman that was in that, I thought, oh, well, Sly's giving her a break and she's likely to be a pretty big deal going forward. But then I never seen her in anything after that.
I've seen some women in films, and I thought, or guys, and I thought they'd be great, and I never see them again. And I just think it depends upon your agent. It depends upon if you know anybody in Hollywood. And that's the first thing. That's number one. If you know somebody, well, you're way ahead.
Yeah, like my Terror Strikes book coming soon to a city near you, I do have listed on Story Rocket. I'm hoping somebody would pick that up and make a movie of it, but I'm not going to hold my breath, that's for sure. Yeah. Yeah, I'm self-published. Yeah. So, but yeah, you never know. Like you said, sometimes it becomes personal and people rub somebody well, so-and-so discovered that person. I'm not going to have anything to do with that person. The petty games that go on, right?
Well, there's a lot of that, it seems, and we're just unfortunate. I think people, they cut themselves off from all kinds of ideas. I think there are just all kinds of ideas right here now, if we can just keep our mind open and think about it. And like you say, it's very difficult to get published. And if you self-publish, then you have to fight like a demon to get your stuff done. Then you've got to learn how to do how the publishing company would do. How would they promote this? And then you got to go out and promote it yourself. And I think people are learning that. I'm learning that. It's the hard way. But I have a gal who works for me, Judith, and she works with me actually. And I'm going to give her credit for the books because she's very good at that. And she knows the computer, and she knows how to work it, and she knows how to come in and out and that sort of thing. And you need somebody like that, unless you're good at it yourself. Are you a good computer guy?
I'm a former IT guy, so.
Oh, well, there you go. Hey, there you're way ahead.
So that helps. I've been out of IT for 20 years now, so there's a whole lot going on around us that I'm not in tune with either. I'm old and dated myself, as insofar as how quick things change with computers. But
hey,
also, yeah.
Can you spell algorithms?
I know what it is, but A-G, yeah, to spell it.
Algorithm.
Yeah.
It took me 2 weeks to learn to spell it because I wanted to do rhythm at the end. It's ALGORITHM.
Yeah.
Algorithm.
I know what it is. I know what it does. That's more important than knowing how to spell it.
One of the things about Moneyball, that's what they did. They did algorithms. But I found out that basically an algorithm is something very simple. There's an algorithm to brushing your teeth. There's an algorithm to making fried eggs. It's just a matter of what the algorithm does is people come in and they do it more technically and they tie it together.
They examine for patterns and behaviors and things that will return a positive for what you put in, because obviously you don't want to expend energy and get negative in return. You want positive outcomes. But you were mentioning like about with stars, and that's the big crutch, I think, is with all these producers and directors, the star helps sell the ad, which helps sell the movie. So it's almost kind of laziness in my mind.
Yeah. Well, it's like Disney says, you have to promote a thing, some idea, movie or whatever, 7 times before it's going to kick off. So that's very good for us to know as self-publishers of books. You got to get that book at least 7 times in front of the people. Not just Amazon and BookBob and all that stuff, but just constant. It's a constant thing. And as soon as you learn that, boy, it is a fight. It's a battle. Everybody is fighting there. But the guys that get through there, they're making 100,000 a year and doing very well, a lot of them. So it's just a matter of focus. It's really focused.
Yeah, that's a general marketing rule because I've been involved. My show is Constitutionalist Politics. My Saturday shows usually deal with the politics. My interviews usually don't. But that's very true of a candidate. Also, you want to get a TV ad, a radio ad, a robocall, a couple mailers. It's the same marketing concept. You want to touch someone 7 times in various ways in order to really get into their consciousness. And then going back to a star in a movie, the star will catch somebody's eye on the TV ad, whereas no-name actors or lesser knowns, they would have to, and again, it goes back to laziness, I think, they would have to work harder to sell the film, and they don't want to do that. They just want to print money. They say, oh, this will be a hit if you mentioned Brad Pitt. If Brad Pitt's in it, hey, we'll just print money.
Yeah, there you go. Well, that's true. But I think the idea of focus is really important in whatever you do, whether it's a film, whether it's writing a film or getting a film produced or published, whatever. It's a matter of focus. And how do you focus your thought so that you will get the most out of it? And I think that a lot of that is just quiet listening, because I'm sure everybody else does, I get all these thoughts that come at me, boom, 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 boom. And you got to say, no, 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 yes. And you find out what works. And I think that's the key. I'm getting warm here.
Yeah, I'm that way. My mind goes a million miles a minute. Exactly. And you've got to be able to learn to focus and on things. But let's get back to the general concept of upbeatness in movies. Because like today, I generally with guests don't go political, but these days it seems like everything has to have a woke agenda in it. And there's a big pushback against that on some, and those films, rather than being upbeat, they're about beating people over the head with a message they don't want to hear.
And that, Joe, that is so wrong to do that. If you have a message, who was it that said use Western Union, but don't use a book or a play? And a lot of stuff on Broadway is like that now. There's a message they have to get across, and they do. And I think it turns people off. I don't think anybody wants to be pushed like that. If let the individual come to his own ideas, his own conclusions by himself, and people are capable of doing that. But you have to present a picture to them that is clear and focused. And if you do have a point of view, I think you have to couch it in terms that say, okay, this is my concept. I have A, B, C, and that's my concept. Now, what's your concept? How do you see yourself with that? And I think it's being open. It's being open to other people's concepts of ideas.
Yeah. Now, obviously, a movie has to have a message of some sort, or there's no plot, right? It's like the old Seinfeld saying, a show about nothing, right? But that show obviously was about a lot of things. No one specific thing. Now, like this show, Constitutionalist Politics, mainly geared towards Christians, obviously those are going to have a preach message, and people expect that, though. Where the trouble comes in is when you're going to a movie and you're getting bait and switch. You're expecting a certain generic kind of entertainment, and then they beat you over the head with something else you weren't expecting and just aren't there for.
Exactly, Joe. Give me an example of your something that you promote, which is focus on Christ, the Christian thing. How would you focus something like that?
Well, that's a good question. You're turning the table on me here. I'm trying to even just think of what the last Christian movie was that I saw. And I see so many movies that, like you earlier trying to think of Moneyball, I see so many movies, I almost forget them immediately. Oh, I know. I saw a movie the other day on Amazon Freevee channel. They have a channel called Freevee that's all free movies. And I saw a movie called Time Changer that was actually from 2002. I never even heard of. And I felt like it was almost divine intervention for me to see that, having a bout of insomnia the few nights that I stumbled upon it. But I felt like it was divine intervention because that movie felt like it was speaking directly to me, because I have Constitutionalist Politics 2 book coming out in June. Right. And that to me made me think of something that I needed to put in the book that would have been absent had I not stumbled on that film. But again, I knew it was a Christian film going in, whereas like one of my favorite all-time Christian films is a film called The Resurrection of Gavin Stone. Now, some people in this audience are gonna, oh my God, you can't use resurrection. A regular human can't be resurrected. That's blasphemous. It's a comedy. It's meant in fun, in jest. It's a metaphorical resurrection of the character coming to Christ from his secular lifestyle. But to me, that is a great movie because it isn't just about preaching and beating people over the head with the Bible. It's a comedy. So yeah, this guy, a Hollywood guy, gets sentenced to community service for having, done typical, Hollywood prankster antics, and gets sentenced to community service. So he volunteers for a church and he starts to learn what that's all about. So to me, that's great because it's for non-Christians also. Rather than beating people over the head with the Bible, give somebody a comedy while at the same time subtle delivery of Christianity to them. And if they walk away wanting to learn more, great. If they don't, at least you tried.
Well, that's a good point, Joe. Also, I think you can present a Bible story, and it has nothing to do with preaching. For instance, I have a book that is now a screenplay called The Boy from Nain, N-A-I-N. And I have a Christian film company that says that they're interested in it as a film. Now, do you know much about the Bible?
Quite a bit.
Okay,
I can't, I don't have it memorized front to back. I can't recite it to you.
The Boy from Nain is based on the incident in the Bible where Jesus, the young man who dies in the town of Nain, and he's a young man, and as they're carrying him out, Jesus appears with his followers and raises the man from the dead.
You're talking about Lazarus.
No, I'm talking about Nain, N-A-I-N, a boy.
That's interesting.
He raised a lot of people from the dead, not just Lazarus.
Lazarus is the most well-known, but yeah. And of course, I talk about this on my show all the time. The different Christian sects have different Bibles, and not every gospel is in every Bible. So I have to admit, I'm not familiar. I'm not recalling that story.
Well, another thing that bothers me about these different sects is the different Bibles. Now, do you know anything about the original Bible, how it was created? The original Bible, King James Version?
Well, yeah, named after King James, because King James didn't ordain it, didn't christen it, he's the one that commissioned, is the word I'm looking for. He's the one that commissioned it. There's had a mental block.
he commissioned, I think it's about 62 or 63 of the most brilliant scholars in England and Scotland, that whole area, to do this, to translate this book into the King James Version. And the poetry, the erudition, the education of these people is just brilliant. And the poetry of the King James Version of the Bible, which is the original version, is wonderful. And I most of these other Bibles, I mean, they're Bibles about God and Christ, but they don't have the poetry. And the poetry is very, very important. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High. You know, it's very beautiful. And that's my one belief about people. You should use a King James Version, but people use their own version, which is, I guess it's okay.
Yeah, and I have discussed that on the show several times. It's like you're saying the King James kind of created his own Council of Nicaea and commissioned a Bible. Now, I have an issue even with King James Version, though, because it is thou shalt not murder innocents, not thou shalt not kill, from the original Latin, Aramaic, Hebrew, and Greek. Thou shalt not murder, because if you read Genesis, Leviticus, and Deuteronomy, the death penalty is biblical. So killing is sanctioned and or sanctified in certain situations, but the innocent murder or slaughtering of innocents is not. So even the King James Version has a bit of a distortion, and I know that will upset some people, but
well, I'll look that up. I don't know anything about the murder. I know it's thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery, etc., etc. So I'll look that up. You say it's thou shalt not murder?
In the original, not the King James has kill, whereas the original text, the Aramaic, the Hebrew, the Latin, and the Greek had murder, because again, the distinction between those two words is significant.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it surely is. Yeah. Well,
that's like Matthew 7. Judge not, lest ye be judged. Well, there's more to that scripture than just those 7 words.
Right.
And that's really condemn not, lest ye be condemned, because there are more than a dozen other scriptures that say you shall judge in this manner, biblically. So again, Matthew 7, in a way, is a distortion. It's condemn not, lest ye be condemned, for final judgment is for that of the Lord, right? We are to judge. We're not to be completely non-judgmental. We are not to condemn another, except for, of course, in earthly law, in earthly court. And again, to go back, killing is biblically sanctioned in the case of death penalty. So we've distorted things a bit over these thousands of years.
Yeah, we sure have. Yeah, true.
But we've gotten way off of movies.
Yeah. Well, I think some of the greatest movies were done like 40, 30, 40, 50 years ago. For instance, The Treasure of the Sierra Madre is a wonderful film. And it's by John Huston. And but I think the greatest film ever created was from a short story by the Indian writer, and the name of it is what's the name of it? It's with well, I'll think of it in it pretty soon.
Yeah, it'll come back to you later.
It's a very powerful movie, and it's from a short story, and it's a big action film too. And I know that Houston wanted to do it with Clark Gable and Power or someone like that, but instead he used Sean Connery and the English guy that's so good, and the man who would be king.
There you go.
Know that?
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, and another really good one that's biblical is Ben-Hur, and that's another one of those films that people will see it and not necessarily understand they're getting a Bible message, which to my mind is what makes it great. Like when I was talking with Don Gallade, C.S. Lewis came up and The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which is also really a Christian underlying theme film, but he wanted to present it in a way that it would be more secular for people to see. So I think we're talking that same line of it's how you can have a film that can appeal to the masses and not beat them over the head with the underlying theme you're hoping they will take away from it. Like you said earlier about bringing them in and letting them see it and them going away with their own thought, not having been beat over the head by either the Christian message or the modern day woke message or whatever. Just be entertaining and hope your audience gets it and wants to learn more.
Good point, Joe. And I think that to go back to The Man Who Would Be King, the point of that is a very general, wonderful point. These two men have been soldiers together through the many, many campaigns. They're great friends. And they had this pact that they won't have any sex with any woman until they get to what they want, all the money that they can find. So they go over to this foreign country, and it ends up with them. They're going to be killed because they have. It's kind of involved, but the Sean Connery character has a medal around his chest, and it's about one of the big sects that's around, and they think he's a god. They think he's a god, and somebody shoots an arrow and hits that, and he doesn't kill him because it hit that, and they think that's a proof that he's a god.
They see that as a miracle. Yes.
Right. And at the end of it, he gets caught because the woman he's going to marry bites him on the lip, and the lip bleeds. So they know he's a phony. So
he's human. Yeah. Right.
They're coming to kill him. And the two characters, Sean Connery, Michael Caine. Sean Connery and Michael Caine are back to back, and all these bad guys, these guys are going to kill him. And Michael Caine and Sean Connery says, "Do you forgive me, buddy?" And he said, "Yes." So it's about friendship. It's just great because Sean Connery dies, and this guy comes back, and he's okay. But anyway, I think that's the way to promote an idea, is a very warm and friendly, and these two guys, friendship is the key.
Yeah. And before we go too much further, I want to again admit that I didn't know that one story that you mentioned. I recommend Bible Gateway online. They are a great service. You can compare the various different Bibles. So I will go research and check beyond Lazarus and the others that Jesus brought back to life, and find that story, which you are saying, to see what versions of the Bible it is in and what Bible versions it is not in. Because some people in this audience, I have no doubt, will have known immediately what you were talking about. Whereas again, I'm imperfect. I'm frail. I'm human. I don't know it all. And, unlike a lot of talk show hosts, I admit I don't know it all, and I'm not going to pretend and play like I do.
That's part of your genius. Let me get my cat out.
Okay. So I will kind of just fill space. And for those of you looking on behind the scenes on my YouTube video, Brighteon, BitChute, and Rumble channels, you will see one of Si's cat she's got in the background there. I was saying before we started the show, what a beautiful fur baby. What's the cat? Melly. The cat that's in your background, what's that cat's name?
That's Millie.
Millie?
Yeah. We got another cat. We thought we were getting another female, but we got another male. So the male chases her around and she goes and hides under the bed. Male chasing the female. But she's a beautiful cat. She's just gorgeous. Yeah.
Yeah. All my fur babies are gone now. And I have health issues myself. I have enough trouble taking care of myself, let alone bringing another newer life into my home to take care of, so I don't want to do that as much as I miss the companionship of my fur babies. I don't feel at this point I should commit to an animal who would probably outlive me and cause that problem of separation that they would have when that were to occur. So at any rate, and I say that tongue in cheek because you don't know, but the audience will know, some people do a lot of and and I got my verbal crutches at any rate. So at any rate, I appreciate you joining me here today. Again, this goes back to the top of the show. No, I don't do boatloads of research on my guests because I just want to let the rabbit holes open and we go down them as we come across them. And pardon?
Spontaneity.
Exactly. There are a whole lot of shows out there that are scripted and the host knows exactly what the guest's going to say. The guest knows in advance what the questions are going to be. I don't want that. I'm not going to go there. To me, that's dishonest. So for better or worse, and sometimes it's for better and sometimes it's for worse, that's what you get here.
That's right. Well, that's great, Joe. You keep it open and you keep it spontaneous. And I think people like that. People like something that they think that's real. And I do too. If something's spontaneous and it's not a phony, he's not a phony guy up there trying to promote something or sell me on something. He's just a guy talking about himself and his life and about his God. We all have our God we have to understand and express. And that's where I am right now. I'm very much into that and I really appreciate it.
Amen. I hear you on that. Yeah. Some would call it folksy, right? But there are other hosts who try to force folksy as a shtick. And I don't like them people either. They're phonies, right? Like you said, real and honest, you and I just shooting the proverbial stuff, right?
Too bad we can't say it, huh?
Yeah. Well, I can say it, but I certainly prefer not to on a Christian show, right? Kids could be listening. So thank you again. Cy Young, nothing to do with the ball player, except for his dad did like the ball player. Okay. Thank you for stopping by, son.
Thanks, Joe. I really appreciate you.
Before we go, where can people find you if they want to reach out? Do you have a website? Stuff like that.
My website is CyYoungBooks.com. CyYoungbooks.com. No periods or anything. You go there and that's my website. I got my screenplays there, my plays, my short plays, my books. I've got my everything up there that I should have. I've got my magnets, which are short books about my key character, Frankie Scarmazzino, who is the kicker It was in my mystery series. He's with the New York Giants, and that's basically where you go.
Interesting. So that's kind of your most latest set. Your series, it revolves around this kicker for the Giants.
That's correct. Yeah, we've got 3 books coming out with that. They're out right now, actually. Kickers called. But be sure you say Cy Young author, because otherwise you'll get a baseball player.
Right, exactly. So remember, Cy Young, as you would expect to spell young, CyYoungBooks.com.
There you go.
I wanted to reiterate the site, CyYoungBooks.com.
Thank you for having tuned in for Constitutionalist Politics Show. If you haven't already, please check out my primary internationally available book, Terror Strikes, coming soon to a city near you. Available anywhere books are sold. If you have locally run bookstores still near you, they can order it for you. And let me remind, over time, the fancy high production items will come. But for now, for starters, it's just you as a very appreciated listener by me. All substance, no fluff, just straight to key discussion points. A show that looks at a variety of topics, mostly politics, through a Christian U.S. constitutionalist lens. So again, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Take care. God bless. Like and subscribe to Constitutionalist Politics Podcast and share episodes. We need your help.